Hello and welcome back to the channel. LC here, back with another quick guide for accessories within Triangle Strategy. Now there's a lot of accessories in this game, so I'm going to go through each accessory, where to get them at, as well as what I believe is their best pairing. So let's start with some of the basic items in this game. Now, one thing I want to say before we get started is some of these basic items, they're pretty good in standard runs. Up until a certain point, obviously, when you start getting more powerful materials. One thing I've been seeing a fair amount of players do is just completely skip over these items because they don't think they're powerful enough. If you have access to some of these, especially like, chapters 1 through 10 or something like that, use them. I'm not going to say break the bank for them, but if you have access to them, say you get it as a spoil or something like that, or if you find that you need access to some of these, don't be afraid to spend some money on some of these accessories, especially for your core group of characters. If you know that you're going to be using the same squad over and over again, you want them as powerful as possible, especially with something like New Game Plus or Hard Mode, something like that. You want every benefit you can get. So let's take a look at some of these. We have HP Ring, which is very straightforward. It gives you 10 additional hit points. It's very basic, you know what I mean? It can definitely be the difference between a life and a death in normal, easy mode, stuff like that. So I had about 4 of them. I used like 2 of them through the majority of my first run. Basic stuff, you can get that in the item shop. Same thing with Strength. You can pop your Strength up by 1. Magic, Strength Amulet. Now when you start getting into the 2s, this is where you can kind of see a little bit of this kind of jump up just a tick. It's more noticeable in some of the damage and stuff like that you'll see, or so keep that in mind. So you have Strength Amulets. You can also get this within the item shop as well. These are a bit more pricey. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily late game, they're going to be irrelevant, but early mid game, you can definitely see their benefits. If you have enough money, if you've been doing some of the grinding and stuff like that, definitely feel free to get at least 1 or 2 of these. I ended up with 2 of these. Same thing for for Magic Amulets. Strength Amulets, you typically want to run on somebody like Serenoa, Roland, maybe even Anna, somebody that you think is going to be getting a lot of hits. It depends on who you end up going for your first run. I wouldn't say put it on somebody like Eridor because he does get some hits, but typically he's going to be doing a lot of defending and a lot of provoking and stuff like that, so he's not always going to be open to attacking in most cases. So I had Magical Amulet on Frederica or Izana or Quarantine my first few runs just to kind of augment them. I always had pretty much any of my magical based characters, I always had them augmented because when you need them to hit, you need them to hit. If you're going to be, having that slot occupied by somebody, that you need them to really pull their weight. So I always tried to have their magic augmented as much as possible. Defense Amulet, I would recommend giving to somebody like Eridor, or this isn't a bad pick for somebody like Roland as well, because I'm going to make a whole video about Roland, but a lot of people really hate how fragile he is. He reminds me of the Ninja Clash from Final Fantasy Tactics. Extremely, high hitting with criticals and stuff like that, but the man cannot take a hit. You have to be really strategic and careful with your positioning. So I just said, fuck it after a while, and let's prop up this man's defense so he can take a hit or 2, and I don't have to worry about this guy dying from the most basic interactions. So Roland is also a very good pick for that as well. Magic Defense Amulet, I think the best person to give this to obviously is going to be Eridor. His magic defense is pretty low. Let's actually take a look here. So out of Eridor, he's probably the best candidate. I don't think anybody else really suffers too much in the magical defense. I mean, once they get to level 50 and stuff like that. Travis, maybe, you could throw it on him as well. I don't think it's too bad. Hasabara, maybe. Avlora would be a good candidate for that as well. See, her magic defense is 50. Let's just look at the majority of the cast. His is good. Jens would also be good for that because his magic defense is 25. This man is fully maxed out at level 50, so that's pretty paltry. Jens would be a good candidate for that. I really wouldn't even bother giving it to Maxwell. Maxwell's fine. Archibald's fine. Flanagan. Oh, dear Flanagan. Pretty much every accessory I go through, Flanagan is going to be a good candidate for it because this man just has suspect stats. I know he's not at level 50 with everybody else, but really, honestly, he's just, he just needs a lot of help, honestly, in pretty much every way. And that's pretty much it. I don't have Cordelia on the save file, but she's a mage, so she's not going to require it anyway. But definitely, those would be your top candidates, I would say, for sure. It's going to be Flanagan, Eridor, and Jens. Didn't actually realize that Jens was so that bad. 2022 is pretty bad. The man cannot take a magical hit, really. So that's going to be your candidates for that. Then we have Accuracy, the Accuracy Amulet. Now, I would typically recommend putting this on your archers. The archer that I really liked a lot, but ended up frustrating me a bunch in the game was Rudolph. I love his animation. I love his sprite, his story, everything like that. Really kick ass. But this man would be missing with 70 to 80% hit ratios. He would be missing consistently, and it would drive me up the wall. And I just ended up just benching him after a while. I just couldn't take it. In certain situations, especially hard mode, new game plus, even in normal mode, dude, you just can't afford to be having somebody on the map missing 2 times in a match. That's potentially a dead character if somebody else was on the field. That's just too much. So Accuracy, I probably would recommend Rudolph or another one of the archers. Probably Rudolph or Hughette. Archibald, that man never really miss. Trish has pretty good accuracy as well. As far as from what I've seen, she doesn't really miss too much. But definitely, I think the number one would be for Rudolph, right? Let's take a look at the rest of the roster. I don't think really anybody else, 66, 57, 58. Mages don't matter. Hers is already incredibly high, 64, 60. Huguette's is actually pretty decent. 61's not bad. Yeah, this man's is at 53, so that's way below Hughette right there. It's just, kind of crazy, honestly, if we're being honest. Way below Trish's as well. Just, Hasabara would also be a good candidate for that. But yeah, somebody like Archibald, that's ultimately why I just ended up using Archibald for pretty much everything else, because he's just better with accuracy by far. If you have somebody in a tactical game on your team on the field, you need them to be able to hit, and that's kind of what made Rudolph a liability after a while. Evasion amulets. So this you got a couple different options when it comes to evasion amulets. If you have somebody on the front line that you feel is getting hit a lot, it might be a good idea to give it to them. I would recommend. I ended up personally giving mine to either Roland, because I wanted him to play him a bit more aggressive, and I needed him to not get hit as much. So evasion, not get hit was kind of good. It's also not terrible for like your mages and stuff like that. Your mages should never really be in a situation where they're getting hit. They should be way in the back line, fortified, protected. But if you want to play them a bit more aggressive, that's not bad. What I did end up doing was I had Evasion Amulet on Anna for the majority of my first playthrough, just to make her even more dumb, because her evasion's always one of the highest in the games already. It's 75 with this amulet, so 72 is incredibly high. So she's not really tend to get hit too much already. But if you want to make it just completely stupid, you could do that as well. Same thing with Milo. They already have incredibly high evasion. They have people like this, Travis and his daughter. They're kind of meant, to kind of take a few hits. They both are about 500 HP. Evlora would also be a decent candidate for this. I mean, her evasion's not terrible. It would go up to 60 with this. Not terrible at all. Also pretty good for Hasabara once she's leveled up. A good Medina isn't necessarily your front line. She's like midline, right? She has to be close enough to throw her objects and get the TP out to everybody. So she might be in a situation where she might need to take a hit, so that's fine. Jens has a pretty good evasion stat already, 60, so that's not bad. Also, Maxwell, I think, is pretty good with him, because reason being is that this man is already going to be, he is meant to be a very aggressive character. Like, his entire kit is meant to be in the fray. He has very good movement options, so he can really kind of get out when he needs to as well. He has the auto revive. So if you want him really front line, you could do that. You could definitely make him to be like that. Groma, I don't like Roma, but you could put it, you could increase her evasion a bit, but the thing is that Groma doesn't, I don't think, work too well in this game, because she can't take hits, so her evasion needs to be like incredibly high. But the way the evasion is calculated in this game, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what the actual number says, because you'll still get hit more often than not than based off what that number says. So you can try and prop it up the most, but the only two people that, honestly, I'm on my 5th playthrough now, the only two people that consistently that would always pretty much dodge things are Anna and Milo. Occasionally Roland, depending on how much you like propped up his evasion, but it's not reliable at all. Speed bracelet, speed amulet, this is pretty basic stuff. Whoever you think needs a bit more speed. I'm curious enough, I actually tended to give this to Benedict. His speed's already pretty good, but having one of his great actions towards the beginning of the match, I think was really excellent. Like, you know, giving somebody the ability to act twice or raising beast right out the gate. I think that was really good so whoever is going to be, if you're in a situation where you can probably get off a really early like hit, say somebody's clustered in a map, really good to have Benedict have some additional speed. And then the rest, you know, it's pretty obvious who should get that. I wouldn't bother trying to like get somebody speed way up because you only have 2 accessory slots and you definitely don't want to waste it trying to like make Eridor fast when there's just way better accessories for him. Just don't bother. But if there's somebody kind of already fast, you know what I mean, and you could make them a bit faster, it might be worth it to throw on a speed amulet on them. So now we start getting into the big boys when it comes to accessories. Now, most of these you can buy from Lionel, but I think in my first run I could only like buy one, but they open up. I think it's actually time-based because I think I was able to buy like 1 or 2 of these, maybe 2 of these in one run. I think after a certain interval they refresh, maybe. If not, it's just within every playthrough. So we have the HP bracelet, which I think is actually terrific. I think this is one of the best accessories in a game where people start hitting incredibly hard in hard mode in New Game Plus. It makes sense, right? So Serenella would go up to 571. Most of these people are at level 50. Roland is also another terrific candidate for somebody. If you want to play Roland very aggressively, he needs to be outfitted completely differently. And I think that an HP buffer would be good for that as well. It would put him up to 523, make him a little bit less squishy. You know, you could kind of be a bit more aggressive with your positioning of him. Benedict, I would say, doesn't need it. He's already at 500. The man has incredible good defense, also 64. I would recommend, depending on how aggressive you are with your positioning for your mages, they could also utilize the HP. You know, 50 is nothing to snort at. That's good, man. I also threw it on Anna for a while, depending on, again, the aggressiveness. The more aggressive you want your character to be, the more they're going to get utility out of that 50 HP. Hughette, I would say, doesn't need it. She's always going to be backline. Eridor definitely does good with this, but there's way better accessories to give Eridor, which I'll get to in a moment. Rudolph, you can give it to him, but there's better accessories for him. Mage backline. Julio would be good for this as well because he needs to be kind of not necessarily in the fray, but he can't be backline, right? So that's entirely, that would be good for him as well. Good for Milo as well because Milo, if you mess up with Milo, you know, she could take a hit, she can definitely evade and stuff like that, but having additional HP is good. Travis definitely doesn't need this, but you could if you wanted to, just for the hell of it. You can just give it to him, pop him up to 585. That is one of the highest HP values in the game. Just incredible. The man would be a absolutely just moving tank. Trish backline, shouldn't need it. Avlora would do good with this as well. Pop her up to 571, but I think there's better accessories for her. Hasabara goes up to around 5 when she's completely maxed out. Narv, mage. Medina, I don't think needs it. Jens? No, I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to keep switching between Jens and Jens. I know his name is Jens. I'm trying to get myself into the habit of it because I see it one way and it just comes to my mouth. So sorry. So with Jens, you could give this to him. This makes him a bit more tanky, 586, but the man still, you know, he has decent physical defense. So if you want to play, I think Jens is best played traps every single round. Do not initiate. Keep the enemy away until you can isolate them and get them to come in and just kind of pick them off one by one. That's how I play, especially on hard mode in New Game Plus. You don't want this man completely in the fray. But if you do, you know, change your playstyle, you kind of need him to be able to take a hit. Good pick. The Dawn Spear, for sure, I would say yes. He would do good with that. Archibald should be back. This man, he can take anything. Honestly, Flanagan, that guy could take anything. You know, you could give him. He could take anything he can get because he needs everything. Izana shouldn't need it. Lionel should never be Lionel. So this is the thing when it comes to Lionel. This is a little bit of a spill. I think people are starting to come around to how good he is. You know, outside of the whole farming of money, he is terrific when it comes to farming money. But people are starting to understand just he can be viable in match. You know what I mean? Endless Speech and Golden Opportunity are incredibly good. I'm not going to say they're busted level, but they are like S tier skills, both of them. So if you need this man to be close enough in order to get those skills off and you are committed to using Lionel, I think an HP augmentation would be good. Groma, it doesn't matter how much you HP her. This means how much you augment her HP. She can't take a hit. She can, but like once you start getting the New Game Plus and hard mode, it's just laughable. Like she's just, you don't want to have her in a situation like that, in my opinion. It's just, it doesn't matter. You have to play so calculated with her. I think I would actually rather have another utility character than having Roma on my team. But yeah, maybe that will change if we discover more stuff for her. Decimal, there's only really two good accessories for Decimal. Quahog literally doesn't need any accessories. This man is completely busted. But if you want to, if you are kind of frontlining Quahog and he's being a bit more aggressive, then HP augmentation is not bad for him. She does not need it. She already has pretty decent HP. So that's good. 480, I think, is pretty good. So HP Bracelet, don't sleep on that. And it also gives immunity to poison, which you don't normally get too much in this game, but it's good. Strength Bracelet, pretty much the usual finish for this, right? So you want Sereno will be good with it. Roland will be good with it. If you want Anna to kind of be more in the fray, that's good. If Eredor is doing a lot of attacking, it's good. I think for just raw power augments, as far as just like physical ones, I like to throw those on my archers because they're in the back. Especially somebody like Rudolph is good with it, but the man's accuracy is just suspect. It depends on how you're playing. Julio's good. If your Travis is really in there in the fray, it's good. I think if you want to just kind of have him in there, just like literally just wrecking shop, just kind of boost up his strength as much as possible. Make that man just like an absolute unit. It's good for Avlora. I don't think Trish really needs it. Trish is fine by herself. Hasabara would be good with it as well. Medina shouldn't be attacking. Yen shouldn't be attacking. Maxwell would do good with this as well. I think this is really good with somebody like Archibald. And one other accessory I'm going to talk about in a moment, I think also makes him ridiculous as well. And then, Flanagan, you already know. Line out. It would be good for Groma if you're committed to using Groma. If Groma is your girl, you want to use her, sure. Augment her strength, give her whatever she can get. Increase magic attack. This is obviously, I'm not going to go over this, but all your mages would be good with this. Every single one of your mages would be good with this. It's worth buying, especially until you get some of these later higher end accessories. Magic bracelets definitely will be your go-to. I like to keep like 2 of these. I would jack their magic up by 6 points, like Federica, or Quarantine, or Izana, especially Izana. Izana was clutch in my first run. I would give her 2 of these, and then Spark for like heavily armored units. One shot generally, especially if Rider Rain was out. Terrific. So magic bracelet, just throw that on your mages. Defense bracelet. Now this is good. Increases physical defense by 4 and grants immunity to paralysis. So physical defense going up by 4 is kind of big in this game, honestly, man. Like, that's pretty good. And the fact that you can get 2 of these, like I have 3 of these, so you could technically jack up one character's defense by 8 points, which is insane. That's a lot in this game, dude. So let me see. So that jumps him up to 54, which is pretty good. But there's other characters I think just a touch more. Like Roland definitely is the #1 candidate. If you want to throw 2 of these on Roland, I wouldn't be mad at you. If you want to throw 2 of these on Benedict, that man goes up to 72, which is Eredor level. I don't think a lot of people talk about that enough. He's 6 points away from. He's 2 points away from Eredor. If you give him 2 of these, that's really, really good, man. For a man that's not a tank, he's your synergist. I think that's really, really strong. So you could do that. I think giving him 1 would be a good decision. Anna shouldn't really be getting hit. Honestly, she should be doing take cover mostly. But if you are committed to using her at some of the higher difficulties, then I would recommend it would be good for her. You know what I mean? If she's gonna be like popping out and then using like Deadly Blaze and stuff like that, once she's exposed, and if you do it wrong, she's definitely gonna need to be able to take at least 1 hit. Hughette, she should never be getting hit. Hughette has some of the best maneuverability in this game, so you can just literally just give Hughette stuff to augment her attacks and her accuracy. That's it. That's all I would do, because she should never be getting hit, honestly. Eredor obviously becomes incredibly stupid if you give him 2 of these. This man would jump up to 82 physical defense, but there's better accessories for him. Who else? Evlora, I think, would be good with this. She jumps up to 62, and due to the way that all her attacks really work, and she does a lot of damage to herself anyway, it's not bad to have her damage in a good place. She does have desperate defense anyway. I would actually say anyway that has desperate defense, like her, Hasabara, as well as Eredor, they don't, you can give this to them, they'll just become even more stupid, but I wouldn't say it's a necessary thing for them. Jens would be good with this. Maxwell will be good with this. We already know Flanagan. Just check all the boxes for that man. Okay. And then we have Magic Defense Bracelet. I think the number one, we already went over this with the other one, but this one goes up by 4. So definitely Eridor. If he's getting hit by a lot of mages, which can happen depending on if you're positioning, stuff like that, as well as Jens, as well as Flanagan. I think those will be your best candidates for that. And grants immunity to sleep just gets better and better. Now, Accuracy Bracelet increases it by 5 and immunity to blindness. Accuracy Bracelet, dude, just give 2 of these to Rudolph and I think he'd be good. Or even just 1 of these to Rudolph. Any character that you find is missing a lot, like, you know, dude, when you miss in this game, it's frustrating, especially during those clutch moments. You're just like, why are you missing? You know, you just start, like, it starts like really messing with you. Like, I literally will, that will cause me to kind of rage. I'm not really a rager, but especially when it's clutch and they just miss, I'm just like, what are you doing? Why are you missing right now? Accuracy bracelets, I think honestly Rudolph is the number 1 candidate for this. I don't think Rudolph, Roland for sure. Roland, I don't know what it is about Roland. He seems to miss a decent amount. Rudolph, Roland, Hughette will be good, especially if you find her missing a decent amount. No, I think Milo's fine without it, honestly. You can give it to her if you want, but I don't think it's necessary, honestly. I'm just being honest with you. I think those are the top candidates for sure. Everybody else pretty decent. Those would be the top ones for accuracy bracelets. And then we have Evasion Bracelet, kind of the same people that I went over already. People like Anna, anyway that needs to be able to evade. Anna, Milo, Groma, I think those are the characters built around evasion. Like they need to be able to get, you know, dodge that bullet. They need to be able to pull that Neo maneuver from the Matrix. If they can't, then they can't take too many hits, especially once you start getting to the higher difficulties. So just keep that in mind. So Evasion Bracelet, I think is pretty good, pretty good. And its utility is endless, honestly. The temptation thing is fine. I never found my characters really getting tempted too much. Speed Bracelet kind of going into the same as the others, you know. Anyway, you want to make faster. I typically give my Benedict at least 1 speed augment, just because having him go within the first few turns definitely can change the tide of battle. Just makes the man faster. Luck Bracelet. I gave this to... Let me see. I gave the Luck Bracelet to Roland, I think, for a period of time. Yeah, he's one of the lowest ones. Even though he gets tree augments for luck. That's luck. This is all the way maxed out, guys. Like what you're looking at here, this is all maxed out. Let me show you real quick. This is weapon trees all maxed out. Like this man got like 1. Yeah, he got a luck increase by 3. His luck is still horrible. So every single character on here is maxed out. They might not all be at level 50 like Julio, Groma, Decimal, and Piccoletta and Flanagan. They aren't at level 50, but you get the idea. You can see where their stats are going anyway. So this is all weapon trees like already maxed out. So keep that in mind as well. So luck, honestly, I mean, that's up to you who you want to throw that on. I put one on Roland. It would be good to put one on Izana. You know, it's up to you. I think that honestly, there's so many better accessories. I just didn't really bother with, if I'm being honest with you. There's just better accessories. Moving on to movement bangles. So movement bangles increases movement by 1. This is really good with somebody like Eridor, because the man's movement is kind of that. With sprint, the man can actually get places pretty quick. He can move. That man started moving. Once you give him a movement bangle and he has sprint, that's good as well. Anybody that just seems to have an issue with keeping up with the pack or moving quickly and stuff like that, you can even give to somebody that already has terrific movement, like a Anna, a Milo. I also gave it to Quahog. I think Quahog does good with it as well, because he needs to kind of be in the fray. He needs to be able to kind of move around quickly in order to support as best as he can, honestly. So keep that in mind. So I think those are the best candidates when it comes to movement bangle. Flora does good with that as well. Medina, just every single character does good with this. But the standouts, I think, would be Anna, Milo, Medina for sure, because she needs to be in range in order to be your proper battery for you. It's good for Jens as well, because he gets that additional range to put down traps. It's just every single character is good with this. This man becomes silly with it. Maxwell, because his range is already terrific. He just goes on and on. Now, the critical necklace was that other accessory that I said was really good for Archibald. Now, Archibald already has a bunch of like critical base skills. Like his weapon skill ignores defense, you know, an escapable arrow and stuff like that. He has he's like a critical ranged archer. That's pretty much his entire gimmick. And he's really good. I think Archibald is like A tier in most situations. I think he does have a little bit of a harder drop off and maybe hard mode, New Game Plus, maybe, depending on how you use him. But he has skills that are really, really good. So critical necklace, I think, really works well with him, as well as somebody like Roland, who's already doing a lot of criticals. These are critical base characters. So if you're augmenting that even further, I think that would really help them to stand out. So definitely critical necklace, I would say, for Roland or Archibald. Archibald first, then Roland. Amulets, I never really use this. Then we have the glorious Vanguard Scarf. Everybody knows about this. You actually get this in Chapter 4. It's a terrific. It's one of the best accessories in the game. It's just absolutely terrific. It allows you to go first in match every single time. And it also, I believe, keeps you first consistently. Like when the next cycle starts, the next round starts, you would go first again. So Vanguard Scarf, pretty much anybody is good for this. I think what I've kind of been seeing so far is really just kind of like the surface level play when it comes to Vanguard Scarf. Okay, give it to Frederica, have her cast Sunfall, then do now. There's a lot scummier things you can do than that. You know what I mean? Like if you just give it to Quahog, or you give it to Benedict and stuff like that, there's just like really, well, not Quahog because he can't really do much around start, but Benedict having the Vanguard Scarf is really good as well. There's really, really insane combinations you can set up if your characters end up having enough TP. It's just good. I think Benedict is actually probably the best character in the game with the Vanguard Scarf because he starts off with that TP bonus. He almost starts off like with like 4. So he can either augment immediately, do now, push somebody right after, you know, 2 full turn. I think he's probably one of the best characters when it comes to the Vanguard Scarf. I'm going to stand on that, honestly. I think he's one of the best for sure. Having a trap being set out would be good. There's a bunch of utility you can do. Your imagination pretty much is going to limit what you do with this Vanguard Scarf, honestly. Red Scarf is really good. Recover HP when you defeat an enemy. I would recommend it for frontline characters like Sarah Noah, Roland for sure. Sarah Noah, Roland, as well as your mages. I think that your mages definitely, well, I found that my mages were consistently the ones that handled the KOs. So if you want to give this to them, especially if it's getting a little like spicy and you find that your mages get hit a decent amount, it's not bad, but I think it's better utilized for a frontline character. Even somebody that has a counterattack, I think will be good as well, like Eridor, as well as Sarah Noah. If they counterattack, they KO that guy, especially in like a 1v2 situation, that can give them the HP that they need in order to not get KO'd that round. So very good. It's entirely up to you though. Anybody that you find is going to be KOing a lot of people, or you find, hey, this guy's killed like 4 or 5 units, Red Scarf is going to be terrific for that. Rear Guard's Cloak, I've used a handful of times. It's okay. It doesn't do exactly what it says it's going to do. It decreases damage, but it doesn't decrease damage like you would think that when you see that, you're like, oh, like 50%. The game is normally pretty clear about what it decreases by. It's like 60, 70, 80, 50, whatever. It just says decreases, but it's not by a lot because you get hit by the back in this game. It hurts. I mean, it didn't seem to be worth a slot for me, especially for characters that are going to get hit potentially from the back a lot, like Eridor. No, I think there's way better accessories. Red Anklet, I think, is incredibly good. Increases strength and magic attack for 3 turns when you defeat an enemy. Again, for anybody. So this Red Anklet tied with something like the Red Scarf can keep somebody absolutely juiced up. They become kind of insane. Like if you gave this to somebody like Rudolph, who already has those stack buffs for like eliminating enemies and stuff like that, that would be incredibly good. But for the most part, it's for 3 turns. So if you have somebody constantly KOing somebody every single round, they become a absolute freight train out there on the field. And at some of the higher levels, I think that some of these passive augments or accessories and stuff like that, or these passive skills that the characters have, really are the deciding factors as to how that match is going to go. It's much more than Misai, you know what I mean? It's not just black and white. There's all the underlining calculations going on is really what decides a lot of the outcomes to a lot of these battles. So keep that in mind. So I would say good candidates for this. Definitely any magician, any mage, Frederica, Corentin, Izana, Narv, anybody from the back line that's not going to need to be risky. Or if you find that like your Sarah Noah's KOing a lot of people, certainly you give it to him as well. It really depends. The utility for this is terrific. You could even give this to somebody like Archibald. If you want, so I'm gonna come up with like a god tier like Avlora build, and I think this is definitely a part of it. Once she gets rolling, if you gave her a red anklet, she would definitely be a menace if you can just kind of keep her going. But the thing is that because a lot of her better attacks damage her as well, you have to be really careful with Avlora because, you know, she's gone. So you just have to be careful with her. You have to play her properly. But if you gave her something like a red anklet, she would also be quite terrific. So the utilities for red anklet is insane. So I would say mages first, then maybe Avlora, not Eridor, Sarah Noah would probably be my next, maybe even Maxwell. Keep that in mind, but it's a terrific, this should be on somebody in your roster at all times. Red anklet should always be being used. Bangle of Vitality, I think it's good. Grants a little HP at the start of your turn. This tied with something like Red Scarf could keep a character, you know, juiced up, kind of keep them going, especially somebody that's on the front line. I think Eridor would be good with something like this because he's going to be put in those situations where he's going to get hit. And that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to get hit. So having him recover just a little bit of HP, but I think that honestly, the rest of the other accessories, there's just better accessories for him, but there's utility for this. Bangle of Vitality, it's up to you, you know, how you think you want to use this. Some characters already have passives that recover HP with like slaying enemies and stuff like that, I think, or if they sit still. So you could also tie this with that. Anywhere that has a passive where if they sit still, they recover. I think there's a recovering route. I think that's one that Sarah Noah has. If you give that to him, he could just be recovering HP if he doesn't have anything to do that round. So keep that in mind as well. Grounding Amulet is pretty good. I only really use this on like the tower base, like mock battles. In battle, there's only literally one stage. I think it's kind of a necessity, and that's when you have to fight Sorceley in the one-on-one duel. If you took that path, spoiler alert, I'm sorry, in Hyzant, that's really the only time in story that you would need to actually use that. Outside of that, it's good, but your characters really shouldn't be getting knocked back that much unless it's a lot of wind mages. But when it comes to just like shield bearers, they shouldn't be hitting you if you're positioned correctly. So it shouldn't really be an issue in most cases. Then now we're on to like really the big ones, the busted accessories. Now Resurrection Earring, I kept on Sarah from the moment I got it. I kept it on Sarah Noah the entire match. Now I know this is definitely going to come up in conversation, so let me go over real quick where to get this. You actually get this as a drop. So the Resurrection Earring, you actually get it as a drop from Spoil. It's Exquisite Spoil from Chapter 11, Oppression Under the Sun. It depends on what route you took, but it's a drop from Telior. So I have two of them. So I don't know. I'm not sure how many the game lets you get, but I have two of them. So I used to just honestly keep this on Sarah Noah 24/7. Because in some matches, either him or Roland, if they die, the match is over, right? So either one of them is good. Every single character is good with this, but the standouts I would say is Sarah Noah, Roland, depending on if you want to use him really, really offensively. Eridor is probably the best character in the game with this because if he dies, he literally just comes right back, and I believe it keeps all the buffs and stuff intact as well, but it removes any active debuffs. So it's really just creates an invincibility factor when it comes to this man. This type of desperate defense, he just literally will just not die. You know what I mean? There's been so many situations where he was my last character, and they were just trying to kill him off. In hard mode and New Game Plus, obviously that's less impactful, but in just standard playthroughs, the Resurrection Ring tied with desperate defense is incredibly good. I wouldn't bother with any of these. Milo, I think, would be good for it because Milo's invaluable on your team, and if she falls, you lose a lot. You lose the power of that 100% tempt. You lose Heart Stealer. It's just really good. Avlora is a really good candidate for this as well. So I haven't tested this, but I think it would be hilarious if he could actually get a triple revive because he already has auto revive, right? When he falls, he automatically gets up. So I wonder if that would be revive, and then he dies, and then he comes back, and then he also he could come back with the Resurrection Ring and he has 3 lives every single round. I think that would be too busted. I will test it by the time the video's out.
Forgive me, my king. Nice try. Not forgive me, my king.
I think those are the standouts, honestly. Quahog, because Quahog is so strong, having him come back to life if he falls would be incredibly good as well. I think those are the standouts. A Resurrection Ring, if you have more than one, they should be on 2 people every single round. It's just invaluable. There's no reason you don't want to have it. It allows you to play way more aggressive, way more risky, make way more dicey situations. It's incredibly good. Obsidian Anklet, I think the only person that this needs to go on is Decimal. I think this was actually made for Decimal because he doesn't get natural TP recovery anyway. So this accessory is made for him. So everything goes up anyway. So he gets all the benefits with none of the downsides that was made for him. I don't see any reason to give it to anybody outside of Decimal. You could, if you wanted to, if you're committed to like really giving it to, say you wanted to give it to Frederica and it's like have Julio next to her the whole match. I mean, you could do that, I guess, but it's entirely up to you. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can play this thing. Then we have Endurance Earring, which is essentially with giving any of these characters Desperate Defense. So Endurance Earring, I would say, works best for people that don't have Desperate Defense already. I think it's a little redundant if they already have Desperate Defense. You could give it to somebody that does have Desperate Defense, but it's going to stack and it's going to make them incredibly good. But I would rather have somebody else. I would just rather give somebody else Desperate Defense instead of make somebody an uber tank. The only exception to that is Eridor. Eridor is just a special kind of candidate when it comes to that. So you could do that with Eridor if you want to. So number 1 definitely is these 2. Sarah, Noah, and Roland, I think, are at the top of the list for this. They are going to be in the fray. They are your melees. So giving either one of them Desperate Defense is terrific. This man already has incredible defense. All 3 of these characters right here do terrific with Endurance Earring, especially somebody like Benedict that already has such terrifically high physical defense. This man will take a lot of hits before he goes down. You could, of course, give it to somebody like Anna, but it's just it's redundant. She shouldn't be taking hits or anything like that. None of these characters should be taking hits. Travis, I think, would do really good with this as well. Given this man Desperate Defense, I think makes him a problem, honestly. His physical defense isn't that terrific, 52, but I think at 50% or less, they start doing half. That's good. She already has desperate defense, but Avlora has a little bit of a defense issue depending on what's going on, because it's not that her defense outright is bad. It's 58. That's decent. It's more than decent, in fact. But the fact is that when she's doing damage to herself and if she's not being healed consistently, the hits that she takes are that much more problematic. So you could do that to stack the benefits with her, so to speak. Then we have Maxwell's, of course. Everything's good with Maxwell, honestly. Yeah, Maxwell would actually be a pretty good candidate for that. He does not have he has 51 physical defense and he does not have Desperate Defense. So this would be really good for Maxwell as well, because he can already take a few hits, and that would definitely put him in the tank category. Groma, you could, you know what I mean? When it comes to Groma, so this is the issue with Groma, man. Groma, I think, would have been pretty decent if Avlora and Maxwell weren't in the game. She would have been a decent melee, but I think she still loses to like somebody like Travis. I definitely would rather have a Travis than a Groma for sure. So physical defense, I think just hers being at 52, I mean, giving her Desperate Defense is good, but she still doesn't have that much HP. Max HP, I think, is like a little over 400, if 400. You still can't take that many hits. So it doesn't matter if I give you Desperate Defense, you're still going to die, when it comes to hard mode or New Game Plus or something like that. So I just think it's redundant to give it to her. So moving on to the Black Anklet. Now, the Black Anklet is a terrific accessory, really, really quite powerful. Increases strength, magic attack, physical defense, and magic defense, but deals damage to you at the start of your turn. This should be paired with something like Bangle of Vitality. They kind of neutralize each other out. They becomes like a net zero sum. So just keep that in mind. It's a very powerful accessory. Like, this literally will juice up your characters quite a bit, noticeable levels, I would say. But it does need to be paired with something that's going to either negate that, or it needs to be put on a mage, because mages are going to be in the back row, so they shouldn't be getting hit anyway. but they do get the benefits, right? So they get that magic defense as well as a magic attack. So if just an event that they do get hit or anything like that, that cumulative damage that they're taking should be negated. It shouldn't be as problematic, you know, in order to reduce their vitality over and over again. So I'd recommend putting this with something like either a red scarf, so they're going to be getting that back. If you know that this is somebody that's going to be KOing a lot of people, that's good. Or really just a Bangle of Vitality, like I mentioned before. I think that's going to be the best way to use it. As far as who should get it, literally the entire cast should get it, but just really, I would focus on mages, somebody that's not going to really be in the fray, and somebody that's not going to need to be like, they're going to be close to the healer anyway. They're going to be close to like a Gila or a Medina or something like that. So it's not a big deal if, say that you forget to, say you don't have that red scarf on them or something like that, you don't have Bangle of Vitality on them, and they take the damage every single turn. You want to have them close to your healer so that they're not, you know, just wiped out just on the effect of having that anklet on. That's just not going to be a good look for you. But it's it's one of the best accessories in this game. I would probably say top 2, top 3. Golden Pinkie ring. We all know how this is good. It's just really utilized for farming. That's pretty much it. I never brought it into real battles. I just really use it for mock battles. It allows the spoils and stuff like that. There's a few videos already posted. Check the playlist that show you how to really just make it insane. And it'll allow you to do a lot of your resource grinding. So Golden Pinkie ring is good, especially if you put on a mage, and especially if you're kind of committed to trying to get some of those resources in battle, like you really want to pick up spoils in battle. Golden Pinkie ring is definitely good for that. And then moving on, we have the best accessory in this game, Plume of Immortality. This is a reward for doing a deathless run. That means no units fall at all. I didn't test with the Resurrection Ring. I just was playing super careful. But the thing about this is that this can be done on any difficulty. So I did mine on easy mode. So one thing about this game, guys, is there's so much stuff to get through, like between characters and stuff like that, accessories and like, you know, specific pathways you need to go through. Do all of that stuff on very easy or easy mode. Do all your farming on very easy. You can get from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, skip all the cutscenes and stuff like that, of course, within like 8 hours. So if you do that, maybe not 8, maybe like 8 to 10 hours, honestly, let's say around 10 hours, you can pretty much get everything you need without having to go through all the sweaty battles on like normal hard mode. If you want to do that, that's fine, of course, but saying you don't have all the time in the world, I'm at like 90 hours right now, but saying you don't have all that time in the world, if you want to try and get some of the accessories that you miss, I will have all this stuff in the details in the comments and stuff like that. So oh shit. So guys, for one thing, when it comes to triangle strategy, a lot of your farming when it comes to characters, you know, trying to recruit characters that you miss or trying to get some accessories and stuff like that, please, for the sake of your sanity, just do all that stuff in very easy. If you have to go through and do another run of the game because you miss characters, just do it in very easy. You literally don't lose anything for it. Maybe your pride, you know what I mean? Depends on how much that matters to you. But for somebody that's more time constrained, so you just don't have all the time in the world, you can go through. I did this last night. I did a whole run just to get all the accessories in very easy, including the deathless run, and I got all the missing accessories. It takes you like less than like 8-9 hours, maybe 10 hours, depends on how efficient you are with the battles, right? But the thing is, if you're doing a deathless run, you're gonna be a bit more careful than you are traditionally. I was just because you don't want to waste time. You know, oh, somebody dies. If somebody dies, you can always retreat and then retry it again, which is good, but you have to waste time again doing that whole battle. So that's entirely up to you. So on to what does Plume of Immortality actually do? It allows a 50% chance of revival after falling in battle. So this is pretty broken, obviously. So this means no matter what. So if they die 3 times in one battle, they have 50 chances. So it's 50% chance, say they come back and then they fall again. It's literally just a coin toss every single time. 50. A character could come back indefinitely. Say they got, you know, they got the rules correctly every single time. They could technically come back over and over and over again, which is busted for a tactical game. This type was something like a resurrection earring. You know, they would pop the resurrection earring first, I believe, and then after that, it would do the 50% chance over and over again. This, I think, is the best accessory for something like Eridor, because he's your tank. You need him to be there pretty much causing a distraction, taking hits, soaking up all that damage so your characters can kind of pivot around and KO other characters. He's the best candidate for this. Honestly, there's not a bad character for this. The characters that you find that you rely on a lot, I'll probably give this to Serenoa. Frederica would be good for this as well. She shouldn't be getting hit that much though, honestly, but if you find that she's getting hit a lot, so I would say, let's put it in a list. Eridor is definitely number 1. Number 2 is going to be Milo, and number 3 is going to be Quahog, just because, and then number 4 is Avlora. Just because their utility outweighs the rest of the characters. Having them present and alive on the field changes the scale so much more in your favor that it's worth it to have that 50% chance if they fall. So Eridor is number 1. For obvious reasons. And then we have Milo, just because if Milo is alive, as long as Milo is alive, you technically at any point in time, you can gain 4 allies with Power of Love. If they're clustered and you get one Power of Love off, that causes so much chaos on the field. It gives you time to regroup. It gives you time to kind of fall back, get everything together. It is so invaluable. It's incredibly good. If you are frontlining at Vlora, which you probably shouldn't do, but some people inevitably will do it. And if you find that she's falling a lot, that would be good for her as well. And that's pretty much it. Quahog's the other one. Quahog, right? Having Quahog alive and present on the battlefield is such a boon to you that it just doesn't make sense not to give it to him. You know what I mean? Either that or a Resurrection Earring. And an Amulet of Immunity, this is essentially a ribbon. If anybody's played Final Fantasy games before, I'm sure if you're on this page, you definitely have. Amulet of Immunity is really good. It's incredibly strong, but status effects on this game are kind of hit or miss. I think the only one that you really want to avoid is paralysis. So if you find situations where you're getting paralyzed, or like one of the later stages where you have to go fight the Roselle and you're on the water and electricity spread and stuff like that, that would be good to have an Amulet of Immunity there as well. I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good, but it's not something I found myself using too much. If in situations that you're going up against somebody that deals with a lot of status effects, it would be good to have, but I typically don't waste a spot when it comes to Amulet of Immunity. I just try and take care of the problematic people that I know for sure are going to bring those status effects. Just try and take care of them really quickly. So in the description, I'm going to have a full list of how to get every single accessory broken down. I think it's just better to have that into actual written form, just because it's some of these accessories, I could pull up a picture and stuff like that and try and show you exactly where to get it. But the way this game is that you didn't really know you were getting some accessories, so it's hard to kind of get that footage, honestly. So I think this is one of those rare situations where just having it in written form is better. So I'll have that drop there. But pretty much, if I have to give a complete list of what I think are the best accessories in this game, Plume of Immortality definitely is the best accessory in this game. Nothing even comes close. Black Anklet's probably second, but it needs to be paired with something in order to mitigate what it does. Resurrection Earring is third. And then I would say Red Anklet is good. Red Anklet is probably like top 5, and then Vanguard Scarf. Those are all probably my best ones. So if you made it this far into the end of the video, I appreciate your time. I know this was just a lot of word spaghetti. I wanted to write a script for this, but honestly, with the way the accessories are in this game, it's just better to kind of show live and stuff like that. So if you want more videos like this where there's a webcam and stuff like that, and you get to see me kind of do it live, let me know. If you want more of a traditional kind of video essay, I write a script and stuff like that and do like maybe more comical editing, let me know. I want to thank everybody that has subscribed. We just hit 600 subscribers, which is a new high for this channel. We'll be doing more Triangle strategy content. Keep an eye on the community tab and let me know what you want to see. You know what I mean? I want to just provide content that I think will be best. I think according to the poll, the next thing that you guys wanted was looking at character synergies, which I think will be a pretty fun project. I will definitely script that one because I think that there are some really underlying broken synergies in this game. So we'll do that next time. Till next time, guys, LC signing out. Peace.